Mittwoch. I'm Dov Hikind, and you are tuned in and listening to the Dov Hikind Show. Thank you for joining us. We're here tonight and every Saturday night to discuss current issues and interesting topics and to hear your thoughts, views, and opinions. Dov, good evening. Mittwoch, how are you?
I am fine, thank God, and it should be a good week. You never know what the week brings, as we know.
Right, that's
what you wake up to, it's a crazy world. When I say to my mother, it's a crazy world, my mother says, it's the people that are crazy.
And she's
That's
right.
what she says.
And she's right.
We have a very busy program, very important. We hope to have with us shortly Jacob Ostreicher, straight from Bolivia, to talk to us about his situation. Thank God he's not in prison, but in a certain sense he is in prison because he's not free to come home. And we have some other very, very special guests. We'll get to them almost immediately. We have Congressman Smith from New Jersey, who has been absolutely magnificent. He's a great member of Congress, but on a very personal level in terms of Jacob Ostreicher, Miriam Ostreicher, he has been more involved than almost anyone else. His heart and soul he has put into bringing Jacob home. I just want to mention one thing before we go to Congressman Smith and we get Jacob, and Miriam Ostreicher will join us a little later. And also, Bill de Blasio, the public advocate, will be with us, who happens to be running for mayor. I just want to mention we had another job fair on Thursday.
Night.
I'm very, very proud of this, because at the end of the day, helping people get jobs, putting them on their feet, being able to pay the bills. And we had, I think it was about 650 people showed up to this job fair. We have 40 different companies that were represented. We will keep you abreast of the number of people that actually got jobs. I am very proud of it. It was unbelievable. It was packed. And again, we look forward to great results in helping people. My motto is, if we help one single person, it's all worth it. I know.
And if we're as successful as we were with the last one, that will be...
one of our job fairs, 82 people got jobs. 82. That is real. That's not a press release. That's not taking credit for things you have nothing to do with. That's what it's tachlis. It's bottom line. It's making a difference. Anyway,
before we continue, let me just mention and thank the Young Israel of Midwood and David Stern, the president, who allowed us to use their facility.
And we did this with the OU. Shirley Rosner, who's the director of the job board. They are amazing, the OU, and we love working with them. And we will continue to do whatever we can to help people. Charity is a big thing in our community, but the ultimate charity is when you help someone get on their feet. Anyway, let's get to the saga of Jacob Ostreicher, and Congressman Smith from New Jersey, represents Lakewood and many other communities, has been absolutely magnificent. Congressman, hi, how are you?
How are you? And thank you for the kind words.
Oh, well, listen, in politics, we say a lot of things. A lot of things are not meant, but boy, with you, I am on target 100%.
Thank you.
Congressman.
Well, it is heart and soul, I can assure you. Having especially been there, when I was back home in federal prison last year and met with Jacob, and of course I met with Miriam and his wonderful daughter. I was so moved by his goodness, his innate heart, and his faith, and above all, his innocence.
Absolutely.
This man, 688 days, and still can't leave from their house arrest. And he is the one who is the victim.
Absolutely. Congressman, I remember when we did the interview with Ami Magazine with Mr. Frank. Yeah, and and it was such a great, all of us talking about this issue. And I got to tell you, I thought by today he'd be back home here in Borough Park. And and again, you can't have any expectations. It's things with Bolivia are never easy. But, where do we go from here? Thank God he's not in prison. Thank God for that. But, as long as he's not home, he is, in a sense, in a prison.
Well, without a doubt. And matter of fact, we had asked strongly of virtually everyone that I met with, and I'm not the only one doing the asking, including the Attorney General, the fiscal, as they call him, Ramiro Guerrero. And they promised us that they would do a thorough job, and frankly, based on the facts, they should be looking for recompense to him for his loss.
Absolutely.
I mean, the more than a dozen individuals who have been rounded up by the government itself with this rogue group of prosecutors and
amazing.
people who are on the taking, like Fernando Rivera and others, at what point do they say enough is enough?
Exactly.
Even from a humanitarian point of view, if he is sick.
Congressman, we have with us right on the line from Bolivia, absolutely amazing. We have Yankee on the line right now. Yankee, good to вас.
Good to вас, Dov. How are you?
Good. I'm fine. The Congressman is with us on the line. First of all, Yankee, it's a difficult question to ask because you're not back here in our community. The days go by, the weeks go by, the months go by. How are you doing on a day-to-day basis as this saga continues, Yankee?
Well, first let me allow me to say hello to Congressman Chris Smith. I haven't spoken to him since he was here the last time, the second time, Hanukkah. So, hello, Congressman. How are you doing?
How are you? Nice to talk to you, Jacob.
Thank you very much, Congressman, for doing this. I know it's a Saturday night, 11 o'clock. I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much.
Well, I can assure you, Jacob, every day we do something, and sometimes much more than others, try to make this terrible injustice unto you be repaired to the greatest extent possible. And first and foremost, we need to go home.
Jacob,
I raised with the Secretary of State Curry the other day and followed up after the hearing and gave him a copy of the hearing record, the second one especially, yellow highlighted for him, and asked him to call Evo Morales. I think we need the highest levels of people in our government weighing in on your behalf.
Yankee, let me ask you, with all the people that have been arrested, individuals appearing in court almost apologizing to you for what they put you through. I mean, with everything going on, you would think that, okay, let's send this guy home as fast as possible. This guy hasn't, all the claims we made, that you were totally innocent, you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, it's become so obvious. Why do you think, like I said, thank God you're not in a prison, but you are not free. What do you think is going on from your perspective in terms of the government? Just not letting you go home, period.
It's absolutely incredible. It's not almost apologizing. They actually apologized. I mean, it was a shame that my family was not in the courtroom. It was unbelievable. I mean, the congressman knows who Fernando Rivera is. The congressman, the first time when he came to Bolivia, actually showed up at the hearing when Fernando Rivera was in the courtroom, intimidating the judge, and told him that if he's not going to recuse himself from the case, he's going to file charges against the judge. That same Fernando Rivera was in the courtroom crying like a little girl. I mean, it was amazing. It was a shame that my family wasn't here. My family was here in some of the hearings, and this Fernando Rivera showed up at every hearing, and every time I had a postponement, he walked out and celebrating and laughing and high-fiving his partners. And he had the nerve to come into the courtroom and apologize to me in front of the judge. And it was just unbelievable. But it was a joke. It was a 6 day, or close to 7 days actually. It was a 7-day hearing. Could you imagine a hearing? 7 days. Apologizing to me in front of the judge, but then of course the following day he goes to the media and tells the media that he was just following orders, right? And he was hoping that the judge would go easy on him. And what was really amazing is that this Fernando Rivera was talking to the judge for hours about how his human rights is being violated. I mean, could you imagine, Congressman, talking about human rights violation, about his human rights being violated, about him fearing for his life in prison, and crying to the judge, not to dismiss the charges, of course, but just to let him go so he could be with his family, to let him go out on bail. It was an incredible scene. I mean, and then prior to this hearing, there was all of the 14 people who were in jail. And by the way, he wasn't the only one who was apologizing. he was the one that was apologizing on camera, but the original prosecutor who put me in jail came over to me apologizing, trying to shake my hands, and I told him, how dare you try to shake my hands? My lawyers had to hold me down. The other prosecutors apologizing, the district attorney from Santa Cruz coming over to apologizing, all in front of the judge, but the media wasn't there. All of the 14 people were all of the 14 people who were in jail were in the courtroom last week. There was a hearing about having access to their computers, but it was for the first time that I actually got to meet all of the people who are in jail. And most of them came over to apologize. I mean, even the judge who gave me my freedom and then reversed his decision, I met him in the hallway, came over to me and apologized. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And nothing, Dov, and Congressman, absolutely nothing has changed since, I mean, we're going now almost on the second anniversary in another 6 weeks. I'm going almost on 700 days. There's 14 people in jail, 5 people in house arrest. Every single prosecutor and every judge who was involved in my case is either in jail or in house arrest. 10 people are wanted. I mean, most of the 10 people, supposedly the government is still looking for them, but we have evidence that the government helped them escape. And I'm not still out. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Yankee, not only that, a step further, you used to have security at the location that you're at, and I understand that your security has been removed. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it's very interesting because 24 hours after Fernando Rivera apologized in the courtroom, and he basically told the judge that he was following orders from his superiors. And if you got the time, I could get into it for a couple of minutes, who his superior is. And 24 hours later, my security totally disappeared. Police officers didn't even come and say goodbye to me. And I'm basically right now with absolutely zero security. I mean, and the embassy is aware of it. The U.S. State Department is aware of it. I have absolutely nobody watching over me. And my lawyer actually received a threat after the judge gave his decision. Received a threat, and I'm basically without any security whatsoever.
Well, Yankee, I want to tell you, I'm sure I'm speaking for the Congressman, and Bill de Blasio is here, who's been involved in helping us make contact with Hillary Clinton. He's in the studio right now, sitting here listening to the conversation. I think, we were all hoping, Yankee, I got to tell you, I thought you'd be home a long time ago. After they let you out, it became obvious, people were arrested. That was it. Come on. In any other place, the government would be issuing an apology and say, what can we do for you? Instead, you're still sitting there, and as you say, nothing has changed. And I think all of us need to double and triple our efforts on your behalf in every single way, because, again, there's no explanation. Nothing makes sense here. You're telling us all these people have been arrested. 14 people arrested relating to your case. Other people under house arrest. And you're still being held.
Now, imagine this. I mean, actually, the Judge d'Affaires from La Paz came to visit me this past Wednesday, and I got to spend a couple of hours with him. And that's actually why I decided that I might as well do the show and talk to your listeners. And I would like to get into the law that Congressman Chris Smith is trying to pass and try to explain to your listeners and try to explain why it's so important. He basically told me, Jacob, I'm giving up. He's had 17 meetings since I've been released on bail, and he basically told me, Jacob, they are afraid to let you go. And if you understand the politics, what's going on in this country, you'll understand why. They're absolutely afraid that, once they let me go, they have to answer. They're going to have to answer to the opposition, to the people in the country. You cannot possibly fathom the amount of support that I'm getting from the people of Bolivia. I got boxes of letters that I received from thousands of people all over Bolivia. And they're going to have to answer why did it happen. And nobody. All of those people had hearings, they went to the appellate court, and they're going back and forth in court, just what I did. And nobody's talking about the money of the rice. Millions and millions of dollars worth of rice disappeared, and nobody's talking about the rice.
Wow.
And that is the reason why they are afraid to let me go.
Congressman, Jacob's Law, tell us what that is all about.
Okay. I actually came up with the idea last year, introduced the bill called Jacob's Law, H.R. 6292. I'm going to reintroduce it with some stated provisions next week. And the bottom line is that it would deny entry into the United States of any government representative, any government official who has violated the human rights, American citizens' due process rights, and it includes not just in prison, like Jacob was for 18 months, but in the custody of a foreign government. So a man like Jacob, who can't leave, would equally be, the sanctions against individuals. It's a targeted sanctions bill that says we're going to hold those who mistreat the Americans responsible. And no matter how high it goes, the travel ban would also apply to the immediate family members. And the idea behind that is I wrote the Belarus Democracy Act back in 2004. And we took a lot of those ideas and used it on this bill. And that's law. And that holds family members as well responsible, so that you don't get these people who are abusers, torturers, who violate American human rights, who can then just send their family to Miami or to some school, college, or university in the United States. We're saying, we're not kidding. We're going to fight for American human rights. I believe in human rights for everybody. But this country has an absolute moral obligation to make sure that when an American's rights are violated, we're there 24/7, no breaks, until he or she is free. And Jacob is, in my opinion, the quintessential example of a innocent man who for months, nothing was done by his government, our government, the United States government. And I've actually held 2 hearings. I've been there twice. We talk about it to keep people constantly trying to figure out the best course of action. And for this Jacob's Law, named after this very brave and courageous and violated man, is an idea whose time has come, because it also will require foreign service training, so that foreign service officers would be trained on how to deal with these issues. The idea of just looking the other way, saying we don't have the resources, we don't do our due diligence to find out, even to any extent, the guilt or innocence of a man or woman being held behind bars. What, do we just walk away?
Absolutely.
And if I may add, Dov, I don't know if you have a couple of minutes.
Absolutely, please.
This is very important, and this might surprise you and your listeners. For a number of Veris's boss, he's blaming it now on his superiors, the person by the name of Schiller. He used to be the Ministry of Government. When I was put in jail, he was the Ministry of Government of Bolivia. There was a massive scandal 8 months after I was put in jail about another issue, and I'm not going to get into it. It's very complicated, and it's a long story, but the government had no choice and forced him to resign. A month after he resigned, Dov, he became the ambassador from Bolivia to the United Nations, and that person right now lives in New York City.
Oh, wow.
So listen to this, Dov. So I'm talking to my lawyer this week and say, if Fernando Rivera is saying that he followed orders from Sasha Laurenti, who lives in New York City, I would like to put a lawsuit in federal court and sue this guy. And my lawyers are telling me that since he's an official representative from a foreign country to the United Nations, even though he lives in New York, I can't even sue this guy. And right now it's Saturday night, 11:30, and this guy probably right now is dancing the night away somewhere in New York City.
Yankee, let me tell you.
While I'm wasting away here in Bolivia.
Yankee, let me tell you something. I have the public advocate here, Bill de Blasio, but I just want to tell you, if this guy lives in New York, I think it's time for us to pay him a visit. I'm not kidding.
I think, Dov, I think we could pay him our own version of a diplomatic visit.
Absolutely.
Because this is a protest that needs to be held. I just want to say, Yankee, I have such respect for the way you have stood up, and every American citizen should be proud of you, and it's our obligation to get you back. And to the Congressman, I want to make a bipartisan statement. I really respect the work you've put in here, and I think your legislation is crucially important because it gets at a way to protect the rights of Americans that's just not being done now, and it would change the rules of the game in a good way. But I think, Dov and I have been known to mobilize people in the name of what's right, and I think we should go over to
in a very nice way, in a very friendly way, but,
polite but firm, I'd say.
Absolutely.
I think this ambassador.
If he's in New York, Yankee, and Congressman and Bill, if he's in New York enjoying our, what we have to offer in New York, maybe we could address him publicly, visit him, we know where their offices are, we've been there before, but very nicely say, look, help us out. Get Yankee back so that he can enjoy his life here in New York with his wife, with his children, with his grandchildren. So that is something I can tell you. We'll discuss. We'll talk to the lawyers. We'll talk to everyone. We'll talk to Miriam. But that's something very concrete that we can actually address, Yankee.
And let me also mention a couple of more issues why I think this law is why it's very important for this bill to pass, because this is not only about me and it's not only about Bolivia. When the Judge d'Affaires came to visit me here on Wednesday, I found out that a very high government official of Bolivia from the Ministry of Government, and I can't mention his name, the Congressman knows who I'm talking about, just applied for a visa for him and his family to go to Disneyland for 10 days.
Oh, wow.
I mean, imagine I am here stuck in Bolivia, and everybody knows that I'm an innocent man, and he's looking to go with his family to Disneyland, and this bill would stop them from doing that. They could not just pick up American business people and throw them in jail and take away all of their assets, and they go and party in the United States. One of the prosecutors in my case, 2 weeks after my rights were sold, went to Disneyland for 7 days with his family. I mean, it's incredible.
I don't call, that's not justice, and that's not fair, and that's not something, I mean, these are very specific things that we need to address. Look, like I said, Yankee, Congressman, we thought, okay, you were out of jail, it was just a question of a little time. I thought you were coming back, for Pesach. I mean, really, I felt in my heart, in my head, that it's over, it's finished. But, they're not finished, and we need to do whatever we can, and we're going to, Yankee. I'm just telling you. I was hoping it was going to be over and just you'd be back here and we'd celebrate, but we need to do more. We need to do more.
And Yankee, let me tell you, Yankee, I want to tell you that we're going to educate Secretary Kerry on this issue. We had reached out repeatedly to Secretary Clinton's team. Now we're going to reach out to the new team. They have to take responsibility here. And I think you should know, I have to say this publicly, that I don't think it's possible that anyone could have done more as an advocate for you than Dov Hikind. And I know it's not about Dov. You're someone who doesn't want the credit, but I got to tell you, I've had several dozen conversations with you, and every one of them is forceful of your advocacy for Yankee, and I know you're having the conversations with so many other people. And you have the best spokeswoman in the world here, too, and your wonderful wife, and we're going to get you back. That's the thing I want to say. One way or another, we're going to get you back.
Thank you. No, Dov is doing an incredible job, and again, I'm very lucky that my daughter lives in New Jersey. If she would have asked me, I would have told her to live in Brooklyn. Thank God she didn't ask me, and she lives in Jersey, and that's how Congressman Chris Smith became involved, because my daughter is a constituent of the congressman, and I can't.
And I actually got an email from Aaron Cutler who asked me to get involved, and he put me in touch with Patty. You're right. And then, of course, it's very weird.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
I also think, the idea of people going to Disney World, they also come to not just Florida, but other places in the United States to business, to make money. And they also send their families up here to get, the best possible education at finest universities on money, especially in the case of the Jacob, that have been ill-gotten gains, so to speak, of money that they have fleeced. So that's why it also will require our embassies to compile lists of people who are abusing Americans and to have those lists available. I mean, that could, in and of itself, begin to have a chilling effect. If you're on the list, you're not coming here. And then we can do what we did with the Belarus Democracy Act, and that is get other right-thinking democracies say, hey, we'll join the Americans with their list. European Union now has a list on denying travel for Lukashenko and his cronies in Minsk that looks almost identical to our own. So it has this effect of saying, okay, we're not kidding. You know, we can't prosecute you. You're not here. But we're not going to allow you to travel and come into the United States. And again, it applies to their families because just as Jacob said, you know, they go to Disney World. They also especially send their kids higher education here.
You know, I would like to mention one thing, Dov. I mentioned it to the Congressman when he was here the second time, but it wasn't confirmed. But now we have this confirmed information. You know, Bolivia is the poorest country in South America after Haiti.
Wow.
And they, yes, the poorest country, and they have nothing. They don't even have enough ice to give away in the wintertime, right? I mean, let alone rice.
Wow.
So while I was in jail, Dov, there was a major announcement in the government that they donated to Cuba 475 tons of rice. And 475 tons of rice doesn't sound like a lot of rice when you steal 22,000 tons. But 475 tons of rice is close to 1 million pounds of rice. It was my rice, Dov. And we have this information confirmed. They didn't even bother to repackage the bags. I mean, I hope that Ellen Rose got to eat some of this rice. I mean, imagine Bolivia donating close to 1 million pounds of rice to Cuba, and this was my rice. And they don't even have enough money to pay for their police officers. Just from the rice that they stole from me to send to Cuba, they would have had enough money to pay for 250 police officers for 1 year.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
Unbelievable. Yankee, I just want to tell you, first of all, this radio show is open to you every single week if you want it. I'm just telling you, we are here for you, whatever we can do, and we will not double and triple our efforts because, you know, we were all doing, and then we were all hoping that it was just going to happen, that you were coming back. That I got to tell you, that you were coming home. And it hasn't happened, and it doesn't make sense, and maybe nothing in Bolivia makes sense. You know, in any other place, you know, enough is enough, you know.
Hey, no, can I just add that, if I could? I do think, you know, your point is well taken. We do work on this all the time. There was a period here that we thought with the arrest of so many prosecutors that just give it a little more time. We were being admonished to give it a little more time, and it's like, okay, the clock keeps ticking, and an innocent man is deprived his family, his freedom, and is under de facto arrest, you know, house arrest, with the fear that they may file trumped-up charges, which then begins the clock all over again, and who knows where that goes.
Wow.
You know, enough is enough. And
absolutely.
You know what?
Jacob Ostreicher.
Yeah, and what is amazing, though, you know, I did mention to you that while Ellen Gross is in prison in Cuba, our State Department gave a visa to Raul Castro, the president of Cuba, for his daughter to attend an anti-U.S. government in San Francisco protest, and she was a special guest. Can you imagine that Raul Castro's daughter got a visa to enter into the United States while Ellen Gross is dying in a Cuban hospital? I mean, it's amazing.
It's crazy.
It's absolutely amazing.
Insane.
And imagine, you know, the hypocrisy of some, not all, in our State Department. I can't get a visa to go to Cuba. I've been denied repeatedly because I want to go to the prisons and visit just some of the very things, including Ellen Gross, that you mentioned. You know, and yet our department, you know, gives out the visa for someone who should not be allowed.
Yankee, we will continue the conversation. We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm telling you that as far as I'm concerned, and Bill de Blasio, and of course the Congressman, and there are many others, we've got to get back to work in a very serious fashion on your behalf, Yankee, and that's happening as of right now. And I just want to say about the Congressman, tonight was a very difficult time for him to get on the show for other commitments that he had, I have to tell you. And he made it his business. And let me tell you, he was going to do a few minutes, and let me tell you, I just got to thank you, Congressman, because, you know, I know you have a schedule, and tonight was a tough time for you, and you made it. And that speaks volumes as to who you are as a person.
Thank you, Bill.
I know that. Thank you, Congressman. I know that in his office that it was very difficult for him to show up tonight, and I can't thank him enough. I've been in touch with his secretary at least twice a week. Unbelievable. I can't thank him enough for showing up tonight, and I know it was very difficult for him to
don't worry about me. we do work this constantly. I want you to know that, Jacob. It's the question of having wisdom. Solomon asking for wisdom. It's one of my favorite books of scripture. The first thing he asked for was for wisdom. We ask for wisdom constantly in prayer. What do we do? What is our next step? Because one of my concerns is I don't want to do any harm. Even in the reintroduction of Jacob's Law, the thought was we delayed a bit, believing that there was at least some serious consideration being given to you to release you. I mean, I did meet with the Attorney General. We had an excellent conversation. Struck me as a man that was truly looking to protect your due process rights and to ensure that, if you indeed are free, from his point of view, you would be free. How long, justice delayed is justice denied.
Absolutely.
Congressman, I met the prosecutor in my case last week, my prosecutor, and I went over to him and I told him, for how long are you going to keep me hostage in your country? You've stolen everything from me. It's time for you to let me go home to my country. And the prosecutor looked at me and he told me, I'm following orders. You know that. And he apologized to me. This is a prosecutor.
Yeah. Congressman, I have a surprise for both of you. I have here with me Miriam Ostreicher sitting with me. And,
okay.
Okay, so that's a surprise. Miriam?
Hi.
Say hello to your husband.
Hi.
Hi, Congressman Smith.
Hi, Miriam. How are you? Nice to talk to you.
I just need to tell you something. I have to tell you how awed I am by you and your staff. You approach every single case with such a passion. It's incredible. It seems to me that this is not a job for you, but it's a calling. Your heart.
I see it as a ministry. I see my job as ministry.
Your heart's in it. Your heart's in it. I felt it every step of the way from the first time that I spoke to you. I want to thank you for your incredible service to our country and for all of us that passed through your door. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And Dov mentioned earlier, you have been such tenacious and loving wife. I mean, your testimony, everything you've done has been done with such class, such fervor, and believe me, it has had an impact. Huge impact.
Yankee, I'm sorry that the two of you can't literally physically be, in the same spot, but at least for now, I don't have to tell you about Miriam, how amazing she has been. But Yankee, again, we're going to continue talking, but I just want you to know that we need to go back and do everything possible, and with Hashem's help, at the end of the day, let's not forget that. We got to do our part, and then Hashem will do his part, and you'll be back here. I'm waiting for that moment you cannot imagine, for you to be back here in the community with your family, and we can make a l'chaim and celebrate. It's long overdue, Yankee. So we'll continue to talk, and we need to get moving. Go back. Congressman, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And Miriam, thanks to you and Jacob.
Thank you, Congressman. Thanks a million, Congressman. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, Yankee. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Okay.